Okay, we'll start with our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Hold on one second. I'm just going to get a tissue. I apologize. Thank you all for joining me for this last class for a little while until the end of July. We will resume on July, I think it's 28th is the last Thursday in July. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. This week we are in Parshat Pinchas. Parshat Pinchas is the story, the narrative about the events after there was a terrible event at the end of last week's Parsha, where after King Balak was unsuccessful in having Bilam, the prophet, curse the Jewish people, Bilam gave Balak some advice on how to bring down the Jewish people, which was to entice the Jewish men into illicit relationships and to bring them to idolatry, licentiousness, and everything else. And that was unfortunately very successful. And the Jewish men got so carried away that one person who was a leader named Zimri was having relations with a Midianite woman, Cosby, in public view in front of Moshe. And a man named Pinchas intervened, did an intervention basically, and he killed both Cosby and Zimri. And in this case, an act of violence was the appropriate response. And because a plague had started to affect the Jewish people as a punishment, and when Pinchas killed Cosby and Zimri, the plague stopped. Not only that, but the opening of this, and the person who did its name was Pinchas. Pinchas was related to Aaron, the high priest. Now we know that Aaron, which we've always learned about him throughout all the years, throughout all the Parshas, is Aaron was a man of peace. It said that and in Pirkei Avot, it says we should be like the disciples of Aaron, loving peace and pursuing it. And Aaron himself was like this, and we tend to think that someone who seeks peace is also maybe a pacifist or is nonviolent, but sometimes you need an act of violence that is strong intervention in order to make things go right, to stop something really bad that is happening. So this was Pinchas. He is rewarded by God, and he is told, this is on page 877 of the Stone Chumash, which is chapter 25. And it says, verse 10, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the Kohen, turned back my wrath from upon the children of Israel when he zealously avenged me among them. So I did not consume the children of Israel in my vengeance. Therefore say, behold, I give him my covenant of peace. And this is called a brit et briti shalom, a covenant of peace. Hold on, I was able to sneeze. A covenant of peace. And from then on, he would be a Kohen, and he earned eternal priesthood, he and his descendants, and he atoned for the Jewish people. What I want to talk about is the covenant of peace and what it means. So there's a very fascinating midrash about Pinchas that says that he lived for hundreds of years. It says, it's interesting because it doesn't say that God rewarded him with Chaim Arukim, that he rewarded him with long life. He rewarded him with the covenant of peace. And because he had the covenant of peace, he lived for hundreds of years. Excuse me one moment. Because he had the covenant of peace and he had peacefulness in him, he lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. This class is coming to you from a wonderful rabbi named Rabbi Ben-Zion Schaefer of the Shmooze. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's great. And he is commenting on the commentary of the Sforno, which is about the Pinchas living for hundreds of years. Now, we know that Moshe lived to 120, so people were living a long time already, but this was hundreds of years, like 500 years or whatever that might be, hundreds of years. And the question is why? What is it about the covenant of peace that allowed Pinchas to live so long? And more than that, what can we learn for ourselves that will help us have a long life? Now, all of us, we don't know what a long life means. We don't really know how many years are on our scorecard. We don't know what Hashem sends us into the world to do, how long we'll be here. Could be someone who lives a few number of years, has a very long life, and they achieve what they were supposed to achieve. So we're not here to comment about any one particular person's lifespan. But what we do know, and medical science has shown us this, is that there are things that contribute to somebody living a long time. There's certainly things that contribute to shortening life. And this has been discovered, and the Sforno talked about it already hundreds of years ago, but this scientists and doctors have found out about this now. It's been well studied. Remember reading about people with type A personalities, people who have a lot of stress and anxiety in their life. There's a whole thing about stress points. There are people, if you've had a death of a spouse or a divorce, how much more likely you are, the surviving person, to die within the coming year or to become very ill. That there is a whole relationship between our bodies and our emotional state of being. And when we can focus on that, so it's not just exercise, which it is also exercise, and to eat healthy and to get good sleep, which I'm really working on, all of those things. It's not just that, it is also kind of our equilibrium, our equanimity. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't have stress in our life, but when there are different kinds of stress. So there's stress that's exciting. There's stress when somebody has a challenge that they're excited about meeting. There's good stresses, and then there are stresses that are debilitating for our body. We have a mitzvah in the Torah to carefully safeguard our lives, our life force. And part of that has to do with how we are in achieving a state of shalom, of harmony and peace within us. So the question is, what contributes to that? What contributes to a sense of shlemut, which means wholeness or harmony within ourselves? So there are several things. One is our relationship with people outside of ourselves, that when there is conflict and when there is emotional upheaval and when we are, balachats, like when we are like, and we say, I'm worked up over, or something like that, that is kind of eating away at us. And we'll say, it's eating away at us. It's eating my kishkas. We say that. And guess what? It is. It is. And that there is an actual physiological response that is hard for us. So we're supposed to try to work on finding places of equanimity. Now, it can't always be achieved because you know what? I don't need to tell you, life is challenging. People are challenging, relationships are challenging, circumstances are challenging, etc. Yes, I will, thank you. So all of these things happen. And so what are we supposed to do? So there are some tools that we can use. One of them is how we talk about things that have happened to us. This comes from Charlie Harari, who did just a very quick video. And before I go to that, I was remiss. I had told Renee Lazar that I would announce, for those of you who might know him, Mr. Joshua passed away this morning. This is Natalie Joshua's husband. Actually, I forgot his first name. And the funeral will be tomorrow, and there will be Shiva information following that. I just wanted to announce that there will be an announcement from BMH, but I told Renee I would announce it. It should be an aliyah for his neshama. Speaking of neshamas, before we go further, sorry, I was getting so excited about having peace in my life. We want to dedicate our learning today to the refuah shlema for people injured and suffering from the catastrophe in Miami of the collapse of the building, and to give chizuk and strength and safety to the people who are involved in the search and rescue of anybody and everybody they're able to find. I sent out an email to you this morning. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but a woman from our community, Betty Friedman, her, of blessed memory, her grandson, Uri, is on the team from Israel, from the IDF, that is working on the rescue, on the search process. And it was such a Kiddush Hashem, such a sanctification of God's name, because being interviewed and saying, do you expect to find bodies? It uses a lot of words about people who have died and corpses and bodies. And he said, our approach, being Israeli, is we're looking for people. We're looking for lives. We consider everybody alive until found no longer alive. It was such a moment. We talked last week about teaching Judaism and what we do, that we are here to teach the world about God and about the values. This is a God moment, that somebody is being interviewed. Are you looking for bodies? I'm not looking for bodies. We're looking for people. And we assume that people are alive until otherwise notified. Such an amazing thing. I don't think we mentioned it last week, but maybe I did. If I did, I apologize, that the mayor from the town in Miami, in Florida, had a press conference, and he spoke about how moved he was by a young Jewish girl around 11 years old, sitting in a chair at the site, reciting Tehillim for her mother, who was in the building. Her parents are divorced. One lived in one building, one lived in another building, and she went back and forth between them, and she wasn't in the building, but her mother was. And this official, now think about everything that's going on at this site, and how emotional and how everything. And what does he comment on? This girl sitting there and saying Tehillim. He said he didn't know it was Tehillim. He said it was a Jewish prayer, but that's what it was saying Psalms. This is a Kiddush Hashem. This is how Jewish people respond to tragedy. If you're not the person who's on the search team, then you are the praying person. That's what we do. This is bringing God into the equation. This is what we do. Now, she was just doing this because this is what she does. And I have to say, somebody who does this in this circumstance didn't just think of it at that moment. This is somebody who that was her response to other situations too, because in a moment of crisis, you don't tend to think of new things. You tend to revert to whatever you normally do. And that's what she did. And it was, again, such a Kiddush Hashem, such a sanctification of God's names. Like, this is the Jewish people. So it's a very proud moments, really, really proud moments. So if you haven't seen the article, if you didn't have a chance to read it, it's also fascinating, describing the complex, sophisticated process that they're using, the 3D imaging and I don't know what it is, that they can tell where somebody was, where their bed was, or where their whatever was their apartment, and where they would be expected to be found in the debris. Just really fascinating, really, really fascinating. And that's all from the intelligence of Israel, the IDF. And as we said, all of that is wonderful, but it's in the context of Jewish values that it makes the most sense. That's where it's turbocharged into being the most meaningful, of saying, we're looking for people, we're looking for lives. Such a beautiful statement. Okay. Back to what we were talking about of this, but it's related, of how do you find peace? Where does equanimity come from? How do you really find equanimity when you are at a disaster site? And honestly, what are you mostly going to be finding? You're mostly going to be finding bodies, and who knows in what form. But the fact that your mindset is, we're looking for lives, we're looking for people. This becomes a framework that directs all of our actions. Now, you don't have to be on a disaster area. This is the same thing that we have every single day when we wake up. When I wake up in the morning, I get to decide what is my framework that I'm using for my day. If I say I'm looking for opportunities to do chesed, I'm looking for opportunities to see good things that people are doing. I'm looking for opportunities to build my character. I'm looking for opportunities to work on a character weakness or flaw that I have and try to improve it. That's actually what I'm doing, regardless of what my tasks at hand are. That's what I'm doing. The rest of it is kind of the story that goes along with it. What's challenging for us is we usually get up with a list of things to do, not what to become as I'm doing those things. So we are more defined by the check off the actions, which I'm big on that. I have so many lists going. I love checking things off. I even after I do it, if I didn't put it on my list, I'll put it on my list so I can check it off afterwards because it gives me such a feeling of accomplishment. So this is challenging for me to say, that's not what I'm doing. Those are the tasks that present themselves. What I'm doing is I'm looking for opportunities for chesed. I'm looking for opportunities to work on patience, to work on whatever it's going to be, anticipating my wonderful, God willing, 7 people coming to my house tonight. Okay, we're going from 2 to 9. And our house has been very, very quiet for the past year and a half. It's a lot of people with all different people. And I love them. And there's a lot of different people. So things come up and it's gonna be 3 weeks and it's gonna be hot and one is 7 months pregnant and one is recovering from an illness and this one's a teenager and this one's a baby. And so what does that all mean? It means a lot of opportunities for working on myself. A lot of things come up when you have a lot of people. That's what I'm doing. In the meantime, I'm making cookies and baking cake and cleaning chickens, but those are the tasks. That's not what I'm doing. So having a shleimut, a shalom process for my day requires having a mindful set of ideas, which comes from a place of meditation, of tefillah, of prayer, and equanimity. Because going back to this girl who was saying the Tehillim, what the official said is she wasn't crying. Now, I'm not saying whether she should be crying or she shouldn't be crying. That's nobody's business to judge. But she wasn't crying. She was praying. And that place of going to that place for a place of centeredness so that then I can carry and take on what the rest of my day is going to bring me, that is coming to a place as I'm creating a sense of shalom, of shleimut, of wholeness in myself so that I can encounter my day. So what are some of the things that we can do? So this is what Charlie Harari spoke about. And honestly, I was doing one of my tasks when I was listening to it. I was making dressings for salads. So I didn't write it down, but he talked about research that was done in 2 kind of isolated communities, and where people's language was different. And in one place, they had a lot of different words for things having to do with anger. They had words that in their language that was for appalled, disgusted, outraged, livid, frustrated, annoyed, upset, ballistic, all those words that we have, going crazy. They had those words for that. But they didn't have so many words for I'm happy. It was I'm happy, I'm good. But they had a lot of words for these other things. And interestingly, the people who had all those words, now you could say chicken or the egg. What comes first? Were these people more emotional, so they had more words for anger? Or does the language itself connect and wire in our brains a response? That even if you just say the words, you can say, even everybody's muted at home, but you can just say, even if you just say, I'm livid, just saying those words, I'm livid. You can already start to, I'm not going to say livid about anything, but you already start to kind of feel like I'm livid. There is a physiological response to language. We respond to things and it affects our bodies. Same thing on the happy. I'm happy. Not I'm elated, I'm thrilled, I'm overjoyed, I'm so content, I'm just so excited, I'm thrilled. So they went to another community, they had the opposite, that had the language with the words about happiness. And the only word that they had for being upset was, I'm angry. I'm angry. That was it. Everything kind of fit into that. But they had a lot of words for the other, for the joy and happiness and all of that. And those people were happier people because they experienced more deeply all those words. Now, again, you could say, those are just people who are happier people. So of course they generated words like we say, Eskimos have, which I don't even know if it's true, Eskimos have 100 words for snow. So which comes first? The words, and then you see it. but we know that when someone has a language for something, they more deeply connect to whatever it is they have the language for. Renee.
You just helped me understand something that I've been wondering for a long time. So when you say the prayer Yiskadal Yiskadash, that prayer, the whole I never could connect why you're saying this prayer. You're like devastated. You're sad about somebody you love who's passed away, and when you're saying you're all you're doing is talking about praising Hashem. So that's why.
You were, well, so that's a little bit more kind of, yes. The reason we're doing that is the person who is mourning says Kaddish because they are doing it to benefit the person who has passed away. When we do something that elevates God or elevates us by elevating God's name, it's a credit to us and a credit to the person who passed away. That does something for them. Not that we can't be sad. You can be sad also. But what we're saying is we're using the opportunity to do something. So Renee, you actually give a great example of here's someone who's in pain and suffering. What do I do with that? So in the case of saying Kaddish or doing any of these things, like do something with it. Like don't waste a good disaster. Don't waste. We said this at the beginning of the pandemic. Don't fail to use the opportunity of a good crisis for something that it's motivating. And then when we can harness it and direct it, and we get to write the script for it, not necessarily write the script for a Kaddish, but we get to say and decide what we're going to do with emotion, how we're going to talk about it. So it's appropriate today because today would have been, I'm not sure which anniversary, today would have been my mom's and her husband Neil's anniversary. Their anniversary was on July 1st. My husband and I are July 2nd, and our daughter and son-in-law is July 3rd. So we had kind of a 3-day holiday going. My mother, and those of you who knew her, she was the mistress of understatement of anything that was negative. It used to drive me crazy, and now I wish I could be more like her. So she was living what's now called the Lex, but it used to be called Crestmore Downs, the apartment building. She was living there. It was around Christmas time. And people had up decorations, like Christmas decorations on their door or whatever. Somebody ripped off the decorations off of somebody's door. And it was down the hall from my mom. And this kind of crazy person decided that it was my mom who did it and reported her, which you have to know is like ludicrous. Beyond ludicrous. So reported my mom that she had torn down the things off of her door. So my mom went down, and I would have just been livid to be falsely accused of that. And it was so ridiculous and so outrageous. I had so many words about this. My mother's response was, I was wrongfully considered. This has become like a story in our family. I was wrongfully considered. I'm like, wrongfully considered? You were, and I was all worked up. It didn't even happen to me. It happened to her. And she's saying I was wrongfully considered. What this also put her in the place of is that she said to the woman who was accusing her, I feel so terrible that this happened to you for your holiday. I'd love to help you. And like, can I give you some money to go get some new decorations? And, I know it's not my holiday, but it's your holiday and it's important to you. Anyway, that was her response. But it started with what she said about it. And she was not going to use, my mom never used the word livid. She never used, in our family, like we were not allowed to say shut up. We were not allowed to say that. There's other words we weren't allowed to say either. You could not express yourself in that way. Now, whether we all need therapy because we felt stifled, and that's a different story, but the language was very important of how we described what was happening to us and what was going on. So the language that we use creates a reality. So we talk about this, and we talk about this all the time. You can't say negative, true things about other people. That's lashon hara. Well, there's also lashon hara. There's also bad language that's talking about other things in a bad way, just using language that refers to things that are negative and bad. Now, I'm not talking about if you are You know, I say Tova is on. If you're writing a letter to the newspaper or to your congressperson and about some issue, you have to use strong language. Or if you're an attorney and you're representing your client and you need to use strong language with the jury. I'm not talking about for those professional purposes, but I would say that there is a price that is paid in using that language. It gets us worked up and it has an impact on our bodies. So our bodies are combination of body and soul, and they are a place of trying to be in a place of shlemut, of harmony and wholeness. But we know there's physiological responses and reactions to words and to language, not just situations. This is why lie detector tests can work. They're not foolproof, but if someone says, you know, did you steal the whatever, and you did, but you say you didn't, that just being asked the question is going to make your blood pressure rise and all sorts of other things. You have a physiological response. So I know about this because I was wrongfully considered with a lie detector test when I had applied to be a cashier at KG Men's Store in the old Cinderella City shopping center, for those of you who remember that. And I went for the lie detector test because I was be handling money, et cetera. And they asked me all these questions. And then they asked me if I had ever shoplifted. And I said no, which I never have. However, I was wrongfully accused of it at the old Kmart on Broadway in Bellevue. I was there in junior high school wearing a pea coat, a junior high kid, and I was looking at makeup, not buying anything. But the store detective saw me and thought that I had put makeup in my pocket and stopped me at the front door of the store. And in front of everybody coming in and out, you know, searched me. And I was just mortified. My sister Shulamit went ballistic and started yelling at the store detective. I never stepped foot in that Kmart ever again. Just having been, I was in 7th grade. Okay, so this was years later and I didn't even do it. But the fact that I had been accused of doing it, that when I was asked the question, did you ever shoplift? My blood pressure rose. Just being asked. It says, our bodies are really very finely attuned to where we're at when we're doing some things. Like, so think about what happens when our neshama knows what we're supposed to be doing. It knows. Our neshama comes from God's throne above. It says it comes right from under the kisei hakavod. Our neshama knows, but our neshama is in a body that has some other ideas about what it wants to be doing. So there is often a conflict. It says, what happens with this conflict when we're not doing what our neshama knows that we should be doing? It says, it creates anxiety and tension. It's as if there is a lie detector test saying, you shouldn't be doing this. Did you do this? Or did you not do this? It creates tension in our bodies and it wears us out. It says, why should we want to be like good, upright people? For our health's sake. For our health's sake. It says that the more we are aligned with our neshamas and the more we are doing what we know we are supposed to be doing, the healthier we will be. Actually, the physically healthier we will be. Because all these little things that we're off track with, not that we're meant to be perfect, but we're supposed to spend a significant amount of time trying to get it right. Getting it, it says that's what shlemut means, is aligning and lining up all of these different pieces. We can start with our speech, how we talk about other people, how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about situations. I keep this list with me. It's called The Best of You, Positive Character Traits. And it's in alphabetical order. There's not one for Z, though there could be one. I'm not sure what it could be. But here's some of the words. It says accessible, active, adaptable, admirable, adventurous, agreeable, alert, amiable, anticipative, appreciative, articulate, aspiring, attractive, balanced, benevolent, brilliant, calm, capable, caring, charismatic. There's like all these words. You can pick a word and think of a word as you start the day and say, like, today is whatever. I'm going to look for gentleness. Everybody I encounter, if I see anybody being gentle, I'm going to comment on that. If I see myself being gentle, If I see a scenario that is gentle, I'm going to look for that and comment on it and make that be more. I'm going to amplify that in the world. The question about, is this available online? You know, I don't know. I got it at a conference. Um, I don't know exactly how to do it. I can try to scan it and send it as an attachment. It's called The Best of You Positive Character Traits. So my thing is I actually need something like this, because if I just, it's kind of like when you go, someone says like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't think of anything. That I need to have prompts. So having this to prompt me helps. So I'll scan it and see if I can send it. My scanner's not so amazing, but I'll send it out to you, and feel free, obviously, to use it. Can I tell you, it makes you feel better just reading the list, even if you don't have anything to talk about. It's like, I love hearing those: hardworking, healthy, hearty, helpful, honest, honorable, humble, humorous, idealistic, imaginative, impressive. You know, when we are put this into our heads, this is what I'm looking for my day. I'm looking to be this, and I'm looking to see this. This creates shalom in me. And if I try to limit, and instead of thinking, how can I best express how upset, angry, and frustrated, annoyed, blah, 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 how can I best do that? It says, like, let's just try to limit the number of words that I use for that. Again, unless you're in a therapy session when somebody's really, really trying to understand exactly what you're feeling. Are you feeling frightened? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling concerned? What exactly is it? So if it's in a therapy, if it's in a an official therapy scenario, or in a conversation with a friend that is for therapeutic purposes, then it's good to be able to kind of identify exactly what you're feeling. But otherwise, like, how much time and energy do we want to be even saying the words frustrated, livid, annoyed, upset, angry, blah, blah, blah. So it's like just saying those words, the person who's experiencing the feel of those words, because every word has an energy around it, and we're giving it to ourselves. So even if I say, I am so angry at Joe Blow. So Joe Blow, does Joe Blow know that I'm so angry with him? I don't know if Joe Blow knows this or not, but just the fact that I said it, I'm actually, my body is registering that emotion. And if somebody had me hooked up to see, what's my pulse when I say that, they're going to see a reaction in me, whether or not Joe Blow knows anything about it or not. I get to be the one who has the reactions. Like, we're we're wearing ourselves out. We are wearing ourselves out. And we see that's how many different, people who have struggled with different diseases and things, people always say, stress aggravates it. Stress, anxiety, and all the stuff we get ourselves worked up around aggravates it. So this doesn't mean that we walk around, like la 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 la, like in not being oblivious. It means that we are very careful with the language we use to describe it. When we can do that, we will go a long way in creating like the force field that's around us. That all people, but the Jewish people, have been given the gift specifically of the power of creating the world through language. It says when you found it. Thank you. On listed thought of zealous. Okay. Creative affirmations. Thank you, Rachel. It's in the chat, so you can take that, look at your chat, and you'll find the link. Thank you. And you know what? You can think up of your own. You're sitting in the car, you're going someplace, or you're sitting there. Instead of having our thoughts usually kind of spiral downward, is start thinking of all the great words you can think of that start with any letter. Pick the letters of your name, okay, we've got Renee here. So what's the good thing? Reliable, relaxed, reflective, realistic, rational, responsible, respectful. You can even make yourself a code for your name. I'm respectful Renee. I am, let's see, I am trusting Tova. I am admirable Andy. Whatever it is, like, give yourself a moniker. Give yourself a something that it is an affirmation and an aspiration of what you want to be and who you want to become as you're going through your day. And it doesn't have to be the same every day. You can pick something different. It changes our whole biofeedback. We're familiar with of like biofeedback. It's like if we would hook ourselves up, we would get feedback on what we are doing to ourselves. It says, and we're wearing ourselves out. It says, and here we are. We've spent a lot of time the past year and a half trying to avoid getting COVID. Okay, we've spent mostly trying to figure out how to not get sick from external factors. And now it's time to focus on what can I do to make myself more healthy? And it even impacts our immune system. So all of this has a, yes, you should get your vaccine if that's what you're supposed to do, and your doctor and whatever, all of that. I'm not here to comment on that. Do whatever you're supposed to do on those things. But there are other things that are more of a spiritual, emotional, physical component that we are responsible for. So it's interesting. It says, where is in Israel, this was done a number of years ago, not so long ago. This is in Israel, they did a study about different communities of where there was the greatest longevity. Where were people living the longest? And they found that it was in Bnei Brak. Now, Bnei Brak is not like the wealthy place. And it's not also the place where people like belong to the gyms and the spas and are yoga and doing all this other stuff. But what they do is they go to shul, they go to synagogue, and they're involved in their communities and they pray. And they're living longer. It's like, could be where people are looking, what's the fountain of youth? What is the source of a long life? It says it's to be at b'shalom, but we need a structure to help us get there. So if we notice our davening, and I'm not saying I do this because I don't, but it's available to us, is that our structure is davening 3 times a day. For women, it's really more 2 times a day, shachrit in the morning and in the afternoon, of taking a break. It's like, what does that mean? It can be something informal. It can be just like talk to God, like, God, I'm not sure what you want from me today, but I'm looking to develop whatever. The word in my name. I'm looking for this. I'm looking to create this energy. I'm looking to be b'shalom, because that's really the only way I can really fulfill my purpose in this world anyway. I can't really be in a state of what's called lachatz. I can't be like so discombobulated, because that's exactly what we are, is discombobulated. And then we can't really function. So checking in the morning, first thing, and then kind of a mid-afternoon, how's it going? I need a little something to kind of get me through the day. That's usually when I have my iced coffee. And it's like, okay, so now I just need to add God into the equation in addition to my blessing over my iced coffee. But like, what's my day? What am I looking for? And the more we can cultivate this, the more inner shalom we will have. So again, I don't know. We say you should live to 120. We don't know how long we're supposed to live, but we certainly don't want to cut ourselves short. So I may not reach 120, but I don't want to do things to make myself wear out faster. And I want to have as much energy and reserves and psychic energy, physical energy, emotional energy to enjoy my life and to fulfill my purpose in this world. So I do this by creating this shalom. So this was what happened with Pinchas, is that he had a briti shalom. He had a covenant of peace, and that allowed him to live for hundreds of years. So I can't promise that we'll live for hundreds of years, but we should live, our days should be full and long and productive so that we can have a true sense of happiness. Any thoughts or comments about this, the biofeedback, what we know about? We know so much more. Again, like our sages knew this hundreds of years ago, but science is catching up on what we know of things being holistic approach. See, to us, it doesn't even seem like this is like old news, right? Like everybody knows about things being holistic. It's like people didn't always know this. And we have a lot more say over it than we thought we did. I'm not sure if holistic people are even focusing so much on language, but there's neuro-linguistic programming. There's all sorts of, there's whatever. I know there's different kinds of therapies that talk about how we talk about our experiences, that becomes a therapeutic approach in and of itself. So any comments, ideas, wisdom from you all? Yeah. Okay. So something to do. It doesn't take any time. It just takes a switch in mindset. It's, you don't have to buy anything new. You don't have to invest any money. It's just like a little switch that we turn on, but it really helps if you have something. Oh, sorry. What happened? Sorry, my paper passed over it. Turned it off. So just something, and you know what? It's fun. It is also fun. It's fun. And we know that smiling and laughing causes a cascade of its own good, whatever, endorphins and hormones and things like that also benefit us. So having times of calm, having times of meditation, taking a break, go outside, look at Hashem's creation, pat a dog if you have one, stroke a cat, whatever it might be, to just get in a place. It's like, what does that do? We want to be aligned. And the most important thing is to be aligned with our true selves and to follow that and think, what is my neshama telling me? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing, instead of drowning it out? It has a very soft voice, but a very insistent voice, and it will make us sick. It will literally make us unhealthy when we don't follow it. And it's not punishment. It's just as a result of lack of alignment. Just like you wear your tires, if your wheels are not aligned, you wear your tires unevenly. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. Tova.
I was just going to say, how do you, so you bury, if somebody does something that really angers you or is very unfair, if you bury it all.
Oh, I don't think it needs to be buried. It just needs to be, I would say, shrunk, which is different than buried, as opposed to exploded.
Right.
There's a difference between taking something and putting it down to size, not to get rid of it, not to deal with it. That's actually sometimes why it's easier to talk to somebody, an objective person, about a problem, is because they're not as emotionally invested in it, and they can look at it for the problem that it is, as opposed to everything that we've said about it. That if we can keep it more, I almost say more clinical, keep it a little bit more clinical, not to downplay our emotions, but not to just put so much into it, because we put too much into it. People say, I mean, they've shown this. This is not it's a Torah thing as well as I won't say true, because Torah is true. That when someone says, I just have to get it off my chest, and I just have to get it out there. It's like, actually, it doesn't do that. It actually makes it worse. It exacerbates it, as opposed to saying, tell me what the problem is. What is the actual situation? And then you can say, the person, instead of, he's such a jerk, blah, 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 blah. And say, but what did he do? Is like, he hacked my account and got in and stole money from me. That is a description. That's not a whatever. Again, if someone is looking for a therapeutic purpose, it's like, I'm so upset about something and I don't even know why I'm so upset. It's like, well, let's talk about what is making you upset. And then when we can find out what it is, sometimes you have to go through the emotions, but the more time we spend on exploding it, the more explosive it gets, as opposed to, let's be a little bit more clinical about this so that we can handle the problem, as opposed to creating all the fireworks around it. Because we get hit with all the shrapnel, all the stuff that we do, we're impacting ourselves the most. And this person that we're so upset with, guess how upset they are by all this? Like, they don't even know, and then we're the ones who are receiving it.
Right.
Does that answer your
question?
I have
one positive thing that I do sometimes is I actually thank people. It's like they're your best teachers. The people who upset you.
Very good.
Are your best teachers.
Okay,
sometimes
that's
I do that.
beautiful.
Sometimes I'm like, well, thank you for making me face that situation, or for learning
That's a
something
wonderful,
to do in the future. Yeah.
That is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So that is a response, is thank you so much. And even if you're not saying it to them personally, but to say to
right.
them, thank you so-and-so for doing this, because now I really need to think about what are my concerns about my money? Or what are my concerns about my, you know, what people say, my reputation. I mean, it gives you an
Right.
opportunity to figure out what your buttons are, what your push points
Right.
are. And sometimes it's
Right.
like, it's a good thing. You know what? My reputation is really important to me. It's like, oh, well, if my reputation is really important to me, then I really want to make sure that I'm doing things that are reputable. So I can take
Uh-huh.
anything, and take it. It also takes it out of the power of the person who's upsetting
Right.
me and puts it
Right.
to me to
Right.
do something with. Like, what can I do with this, instead of giving the control and the power to this other person who you upset me? It's like,
Exactly.
instead of saying, I am upset by this, why does this upset me? Thank you for
Mhm.
pointing this out to me. If we would use it the same way we do pain, we don't usually get angry about pain. It's like, I can't believe my leg is hurting me. I was
Yeah.
relying on it, and like now it's like hurting me. It's like, well, what's the matter with it? It's like, well, I sprained it. It's like, okay, so how did that happen, and what do you need to do? So if we would kind of take the similar approach,
And it all
we
comes from God anyway, right?
it's all coming from
It comes
Hashem. It's
from
like,
Hashem. So if you're,
yes,
yeah, if you're
and it's
focusing on the person,
right, and it's not
you're just,
punishment. It is communication. It's
mhm,
communication, and it's alerting us to either something we need to work on or something that we need to know about ourselves. Challenges are not necessarily, it's like the word for a challenge in Hebrew is nisayon. It's the
mhm,
same word in Hebrew is for experience. So if you're filling out a job description or something, not a job, a resume for yourself in Hebrew in Israel, and it'll ask for like your nisyonim or nisyonos. I forget which is feminine or masculine. And it doesn't mean it wants to hear about all the tsuris in your life. It means what's your experience. And
yeah,
experiences and wisdom are won through challenges. So we say that
right,
Abraham was tested 10 times, but the word also, and I love this, I mean, I have to remind myself of this all the time. The word nace is in the word nisayon, and nace means a miracle. And it means an
mhm,
opportunity to, what a miracle is to above nature. It's an opportunity for me to rise above what I thought my limitations were. I thought I was this, but this challenge, this nisayon, is providing me a nace, an opportunity to rise above what those limitations were that I thought they were. And that the
right,
same word that also means a banner that then serves as inspiration for other people and myself. It's such a wonderful thing. We should be looking for them, except we actually don't pray for them. King David got himself in big trouble. He wanted to be tested. He wanted to be tested to be able to prevail over himself and rise to a higher level. And so God sent him Bathsheba. That didn't work out exactly right. So it says,
yeah,
you be fine with the nisyonot that God sends us, because they are custom designed for our personal growth, but you don't go looking for it. It's like you don't walk into the danger zone and think, oh, I can do this. It's like, no, stay away. And whatever nisayon you're supposed to have, God will be sure to give you. And then it's
right,
so what you said is really beautiful, is a thank you for this. Thank you. I needed this for something, and I need to figure out what it is. And maybe that's what you talk to somebody about. Is like, what can I learn from this? What can I do with this? How do I use this? Because it's all opportunity. It is all opportunity for growth. And the gratitude piece is thank you. So there's a wonderful book. It's called Say Thank You and See Miracles. And it's about exactly that, about saying thank you for every crisis that happens. Thank you,
right,
Hashem, for sending this to me. I know it must be for my good and my development. I'm not sure what it is yet, but thank you. And
right,
just being in that place alone allows miracles to happen, because it puts us in a receptive mode. When we're in a receptive mode instead of this mode, we're just more successful. And our bodies, it's like
right,
we're like a person who is a trained martial artist. they're very relaxed. They're in a
Right.
state of readiness, and they can respond because they are in a place of shalom. You can't be like, if that's not going to really help you, when someone
Yeah.
says like, oh, I'm going to get a gun so I can defend myself. It's like, oh, for me, that would not really be work. First of all, I'd probably end up shooting myself in the foot. And then the gun is like, I'm not going to even know where it is. And then my hands, my hand shakes when I have a fork in it. So like, how is it going to be with a gun? So people are like,
Right.
what is the real thing is being in a place of centeredness is
Right.
our best place to be for anything and everything that comes our way, including things that are pleasurable. Like to be in a place of centeredness, to say, I'm going to be looking for, like my word for today is going to be, I don't know what it's going to be, compassionate. Okay. All these people are my loving family. I can hardly wait to see. I'm looking to be compassionate. Everyone's going to be jet lagged. Everyone was on long flight. They are little. They've been sitting in tight places, all these things. Everyone needs a break. And it takes like 4 days to 5 days to get whatever. Yes, I'm happy to see them, but everyone's going to need a big dose of compassion. If people are cranky or tired or falling asleep. And I'm already thinking about it. Like I'm planning my Shabbos dinner, and there's a good chance that at least half the people are not going to be at it, because they will have already fallen asleep by the time it's time for dinner. And now, should I be feeling like insulted and upset? I worked so hard to make the dinner. I made exactly what you wanted, and now you're like all asleep. It's like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So I'm already like trying to anticipate what qualities need to be enhanced to make things go well, because we all know we love our families. And that it can also be a source of tremendous challenge and getting upset. So what do I need? Where do I need to be? Where's my shalom state? And that's why I took this out. I'm keeping this handy for the next 3 weeks, because I want to be in the best place possible to get the most out of our visit so that I can really enjoy it. So this is like very down to earth, practical things to do in our lives with whoever we are dealing with, whether it's ourselves, our own situations. And you can do it in memory of my mother. If somebody gives you grief or whatever, I was wrong. You just say the word. You cannot get even worked up by saying I was wrongfully considered. That phrase itself brings you down. Instead of like me going ballistic saying I'm livid that they did this, they're anti-Semites, blah, blah, blah. That was my response, and didn't help anything. So, yes.
So sometimes letting people get away with whatever they're doing.
They're not getting away.
You're better off
getting away with it. What does getting away with it mean? What, I'm going to arrest them? I mean, it means like
if somebody's outwardly trying to cheat you, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, you don't.
Sometimes it's better to just let yourself be cheated. And
No.
And not get into the stress. No.
So don't misunderstand. This does not mean don't take care of the problem. It means don't use a lot of language around it that gets yourself worked up. You can say, that's why I always says, all these things it says, you don't need to go into a temper tantrum, but you can still take him to court or take him to a beit din. It's like, you cheated me. That's all you need to say. You cheated. It appears that you cheated me. My records aren't, you can say, because you don't know for sure. Maybe it was a mistake. My records don't align with what I was expecting. You can say that. So you're not letting anybody get away with anything. You're just talking about it in a way that's less inflammatory,
Okay.
We have inflammatory bowel disease. We have inflammation. Inflammation is the source of every disease that is out there. It's like, where'd all this inflammation come from? It's like, oh, we have inflammatory foods that are inflammatory, but we have a way of life that is inflammatory. And a lot of it is we are inflaming ourselves with the language that we use to talk about it. So take care of every single problem. Don't let anyone cheat you. Don't let anyone molest you. Well, yeah, inflammatory mouth disease. I love that. Inflammatory mouth disease. But the one who's feeling it
mouth disease,
is whose kishkas are burning? Ours. So it's like, I'm not talking about letting someone get away with something. I'm just saying, how am I going to talk about it? Because the way I talk about it is going to impact how my body feels about it and reacts to it.
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
I'm going to be living with those consequences. Long after the cheating is done, I'm going to be the one that has the ulcer. So what good did that do me? So it's not about letting people
Right.
get away with things. It's about how we talk about it. And more important than that is switching to the positive focus of I'm going to be looking for, instead of looking for, and some people are always looking for this, some people are always looking for whoever's cheating them and doing them wrong and whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe if you're the auditors, you do need to look for that. But if you're just like in your life, we're better off having this other list available, saying, I'm looking for the people who are being kind, I'm looking for people who are being considerate, and I want to use those words in my life today. I'm going to use it in an email, I'm going to use it in a text, I'm going to use it in a conversation in the store, I'm going to tell the checker, you were so helpful today, I really appreciate it, or thank you for your time, whatever. This
Right.
is going to create shalom. Then we can be like Pinchas, and we can have a brit shalom. We can have a covenant of peace that will maximize whatever life, number of years, days on this planet that we are meant to have. So God willing, we will have that, and we can help ourselves. And you know what? People will enjoy being around us so much more. Can I tell you that this also changes the energy in the world, and you attract a lot of what we put out. So doing this kind of creates more of it. It nourishes and creates more of it. God willing, we'll have that.
Beautiful.
Ladies, thank you for joining me. I will look forward to seeing you the end of July. Let's see, Rachel, for you, what are we going to say for you? Resourceful, responsible, have a relaxing summer. And Misty, what do we have for you? Multi-leveled, mature, magnanimous. And Esther, we have you here, extraordinary, enthusiastic. And Andy, agreeable, alert, amiable. And Renee, this is really fun to do this. It brings a smile to anyone's face when you say this to them. Of relaxed, reflective, realistic, and Tova, tolerant, trusting, thorough. Marcia, so what do we have for you? Also, mature, methodical, magnanimous. Janine, how nice to have you with us also. Janine, they don't have J on here, so we need to think of something for Janine. What's a J? Is
Joyful.
joyful. Thank you, joyful Janine. And wise, well-rounded Wendy. And Jerry, we have here another one, also joyful Jerry, for sure.
Jolly.
Jolly Jerry. Marjorie, we've had so many M's of magnanimous and meticulous. And Sharon, my dear friend Sharon, of skillful, sharing, sentimental, sensitive, selfless, and secure. We should be all blessed to say all of these things. This is, we're supposed to say this about ourselves and then look for it. It says it's very hard to see in other people if we can't see it in ourselves. So we start with us and radiate outwards. So God willing, we'll find all the beauty that is in this wonderful world. And even in the midst of tragedy, just going back to our scenario in Miami, that even terrible, sad, heartbreaking situations also provide moments of inspiration and pride and joy and illumination that can bring light to a very dark, dark situation. So we should feel so proud that the Israelis and the Jewish people are providing inspiration to others around them at such a difficult time. So we continue to pray for the lives of the people who are still missing. May there be miracles and may people be found and may the people be protected who are looking for them, because it's such dangerous work and nobody else should suffer any injury or terrible consequence based on their generosity of spirit for offering to be able to help people in need. And may the world see who the Jewish people truly are and bless us so that they themselves can be blessed. Ladies, have a wonderful Shabbos in a few weeks, and I will see you at the end of July.
Enjoy your
Thank
family, Ellen.
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Ellen, the E's for you are easygoing, empathetic, enthusiastic, expressive, excited, and energetic. Have a wonderful few weeks.
Thank you.
It's
I'm
awesome.
gonna memorize those. That's what I'm
Yes.
looking, that's what I'm
Are-
looking for.
Are we
That's
getting
what
a
I-
copy? Are we getting a copy of that list?
I am going to, so you can go to the website that was, that Rachel, I think, got for us. Rachel, you posted that in the chat, right?
Right.
Okay,
And then I'm also, my scanner is not so great. So it's www.creativeaffirmations.com.
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And feel free to add your own.
Okay.
All right. We want to have a language that's rich. It's like in Hebrew. There are lots of words for love, different kinds of love. That's why we have the Sheva Brachas. It goes, Ahava Achva Shalom V'Reut. It goes through a whole thing, a whole list of different kinds of love that we want the couple to have, because that's what we want to experience and magnify and amplify in this world, and to see and to create.
Thank you, Rachel, for bringing up the positive words for Ellen. That was perfect.
Yes, that was so sweet. Thank you.
And
Thank
then have a beautiful time with your family, Ellen.
Thank you, Bezrat Hashem. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all. See you in a few weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This was a treat for today, and an unexpected treat. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rachel. Be well. Give my regards to Mordechai.
I will be happy to, and you to your husband also.
Thank you. All right, ladies, have a wonderful Shabbos and a good few weeks.
Bye.